They say when you know, you know. And when I met Lena, I knew. It wasn't some slow, cautious falling in love. No, loving her was like being swept into a tidal wave and not caring if I drowned. She had this presence that stopped conversations without trying, this laugh that cracked open rooms like sunlight breaking through thick clouds. From the moment our eyes met at a New Year's Eve party, my world tilted and never straightened out again. She was wearing this deep crimson dress, nothing extravagant, just enough to hint at danger, like a warning wrapped in elegance. I remember the way her lips curved when she caught me looking. Confident. Playful. She didn't flirt with words, she flirted with silences. With that unspoken electricity in the air between two people who feel the pull before they understand the reason. We talked until sunrise. We didn't talk about work or weather or politics. We talked about regrets, childhood fears, favorite books we reread during hard times. She told me how she once climbed a fire escape just to see the stars on a dare. I told her about the time I skipped class to drive 200 miles to nowhere. It wasn't just chemistry. It was collision. Two lives slamming into each other at the exact moment they were ready to change. Within a month, we were inseparable. And I don't mean texting constantly or seeing each other twice a week. I mean waking up in each other's arms, cooking together, sharing toothbrushes and playlists, arguing over which Netflix show to binge. Our lives merged faster than we had time to analyze it. And honestly, I didn't want to analyze anything. Because being with her felt like finally being home. After 2 years, I bought a ring. Not the biggest one. Not the flashiest. But one that felt like her, elegant, understated, and beautiful without trying. I proposed during a weekend trip to a quiet cabin in the woods. Snow was falling, fire crackling, and when she said, yes, she buried her face into my chest and whispered, you saved me. I didn't ask what she meant. I just held her tighter. The wedding was small, intimate, and perfect. Her father cried. My mother hugged her like she had always been part of the family. Our friends toasted to a love that looked too good to be true, and maybe, deep down, they weren't wrong. In the months that followed, we built what I thought was a solid foundation. We bought a small house with a crooked fence and creaky floors, but it was ours. We painted walls together, argued about tile colors, slow danced in the kitchen at 1 a.m. to old jazz records. She'd rest her head on my chest and say, I've never felt this safe before. And God help me, I believed her. We had traditions. Sunday morning pancakes. Tuesday movie nights. Friday evening takeout on the couch. Even our arguments had a rhythm, quick flare-ups, then apologies, kisses, and making up under tangled blankets. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt real. Grounded. Honest. There were late-night talks about having kids. Vacation plans we penciled in on the fridge calendar. Jokes only we understood. I memorized the way she liked her coffee, the way she'd hum when folding laundry, the exact spot on her neck that made her laugh. She was my wife. My best friend. My future. And I would have walked through fire for her. So when everything unraveled, when the truth came out, it wasn't just betrayal. It was like watching the life we'd built together die in my hands, while she looked me in the eye and let it bleed. It didn't happen all at once. It crept in like a shadow at sunset, slowly, softly, until I looked around one day and realized the light was gone. At first, it was just a gut feeling. Something subtle. Off. Lena had always been open, the kind of person who'd narrate her day like a podcast. She'd text me funny things she overheard at the grocery store, send me casual photos of her lunch, or call just to hear my voice on the drive home. But then it changed. The calls became shorter. Her phone became private, turned face down on the table, mysteriously silent, or buzzing with texts she'd swipe away quickly. She'd still smile at me, but there was something behind her eyes. A hesitation. A disconnect. Like she was there physically, but already drifting somewhere else emotionally. I tried to ignore it. Tried to tell myself it was work stress. A rough patch. A phase. But then came the weekend that shattered everything. She told me she was going to visit her sister. An overnight trip. Last minute. Her voice was rushed, distracted. It's girl stuff, she said with a soft smile. We need a wine night. Just the two of us. You know how it is. I believed her. I kissed her goodbye, even slipped her favorite snacks into her purse. Told her to have fun and call me before bed. She never did. At 1 a.m., I sent a message asking if everything was okay. No reply. At 2:17 a.m., I called. Straight to voicemail. I barely slept. The next morning, I got a short text. Sorry, fell asleep early. Heading back soon. My chest tightened. Something didn't feel right. When she came home later that day, she looked flawless, hair freshly washed, nails redone, calm and polished. I asked how her sister was. She blinked and said, "Oh, yeah, she's good. Same old drama." But there was a flicker in her voice. Something strained. I couldn't let it go. So I did something I never imagined myself doing. I checked the bank account. One charge stood out, a luxury hotel downtown. One night. 2 guests. Room service. Champagne. Her sister lived 2 hours away. This hotel was 15 minutes from our house. When I asked her directly, she denied everything. Claimed I was being paranoid. That's where we met up with an old friend from high school. But I wasn't stupid. Eventually, the truth surfaced. It was just one night, she said. It didn't mean anything. I was confused. That word, confused, hit me like a slap. You don't call what we had confusion. You don't betray someone and reduce it to a lapse in clarity. I didn't yell. I didn't break things. I just stood there. And for the first time since I met her, I felt like I was looking at someone I didn't recognize. That night, I left. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove through the dark, past neighborhoods that used to feel familiar, while trying to make sense of how everything could fall apart so fast. She had crossed a line, one we could never fully come back from. And I knew, even if I stayed, a part of me would always be watching the door, wondering when she'd walk out again. I should have left for good. A smarter man would have. But when you love someone the way I loved Lena, you start making excuses that sound like logic. You convince yourself that people make mistakes, that marriages survive worse, that forgiveness is strength. And maybe, in some situations, that's true. But not in this one. After a few weeks apart, after nights spent staring at the ceiling and mornings waking up alone, I agreed to talk. She cried. She apologized. Over and over. Said she hated herself for what she did. Said it meant nothing. That it was just a stupid, meaningless escape she didn't even understand. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So we tried again. We went to couples counseling. We read relationship books. We scheduled check-ins, tried weekly date nights, started fresh. I told her I was willing to move forward, but only if she was willing to be fully transparent. She agreed. Passwords were shared. Boundaries were set. Promises were made. For a while, things felt okay. Not like before, never like before, but manageable. We smiled in photos again. Went on weekend hikes. I even remember a moment, one afternoon while watching a movie, when she rested her head on my shoulder and I thought, maybe this can work. Maybe we'll be stronger on the other side. But trust isn't something you can patch with duct tape. And deep down, I could feel it. Something wasn't right. She was present, but not connected. Loving, but in a mechanical way. Her words said all the right things, but her eyes were tired. Absent. Guilty. Then, one afternoon, I walked past her phone as it buzzed on the counter. A name flashed that I didn't recognize. I didn't want to be the kind of man who checked. But I had already become that man the day she broke me. So I looked. It wasn't the same guy as before. It was someone else. Different name. Same story. The messages were less explicit this time, careful, vague, coded. But I'd seen enough to know what was happening. Flirting. Plans. Late-night jokes that don't belong in any friendship. The signs were all there. I stood there, staring at the screen, my heart beating louder than I could think. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a pattern. And suddenly, every moment I had spent rebuilding our relationship felt like a lie she had watched me write, knowing full well she'd burn the pages again. That night, I didn't say a word. I went into the bedroom, lay beside her, and listened to her breathing, steady, peaceful, like she had nothing to hide. I realized then that I was the only one hurting. She had already moved on. She just hadn't bothered to leave yet. And in that moment, something inside me finally broke, not out of rage, but out of release. I was done. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I stayed home. I sat at the kitchen table with her phone in my hands, rereading every message, every flirty emoji, every innuendo masked as a joke. There was no point pretending anymore. No more benefit of the doubt. No more waiting for an explanation that would never be good enough. When she walked in, still groggy from sleep, still wrapped in that soft gray robe I once loved seeing her in, I didn't even flinch. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Who is Martin?" She froze. Her hand instinctively reached for the edge of the chair. "What?" "You heard me," I said. Calm. Cold. "Martin. The guy you've been messaging while I've been sitting here like a fool rebuilding something you were already tearing apart again." Her lips parted, but no words came. I stood up and held her phone toward her. You want me to read the text out loud? Should I start with the one where you said, I miss you too, or the one where you told him you were thinking of sneaking away again next weekend? She tried to speak. Jason, it's not what you think. I slammed the phone down on the table. Don't you dare insult me with that line. The air in the room shifted. She sat down, arms crossed, like she was bracing for impact. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. But my voice? My voice was sharper than it had ever been. Not because I was angry, but because I was finished. You had one chance, Lena. One. After everything we went through, after all the therapy, the forgiveness, the pain, you still chose this. Tears started to form in her eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen again. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that's when I realized it wasn't about me. It never was. Whatever hole she was trying to fill, whatever chaos lived inside her that craved attention or secrecy or destruction, it wasn't something I could fix. And I was done being collateral damage for her unresolved issues. I'm not your rehab, I said. I'm your husband. Or at least, I was. Not anymore. She stood up and reached for me. Please, don't do this. Don't throw it away. I laughed. Bitterly. I'm not throwing anything away. You did that. Twice. She broke down, collapsing into the chair, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't move to comfort her this time. That chapter of me, the man who forgave her, who absorbed her pain, who fought to keep us afloat, was gone. I walked to the door, grabbed my keys, and turned back only once. You have until the end of the day to move out, I said. Don't be here when I get back. And with that, I left. For the first time in years, I walked out not confused, not heartbroken, but free. She moved out that night. She didn't wait until I returned. Maybe she knew I was serious. Maybe, deep down, she knew she had finally pushed too far. The house was quiet when I got back. Her clothes were gone. Her drawer in the bathroom was empty. The scent of her perfume still lingered faintly in the hallway, like a ghost too stubborn to leave. I sat on the couch in silence for what felt like hours. I expected to feel grief, regret, anger. But what I felt was relief. The silence didn't hurt. It healed. In the days that followed, she tried to reach me texts, emails, voicemails. She even wrote me a letter, 8 pages long. She said she missed me, that she hated herself, that she had made mistakes, yes, but we could work through it again. But I didn't reply, because I had finally learned the difference between love and attachment. She didn't love me. She loved being loved by me. She loved the safety, the comfort, the loyalty, the unconditional devotion I gave so freely. But she never valued it. And once I took it away, she panicked. Not because she lost me, but because she lost control. Friends told me she was falling apart, that she regretted everything, that she wished she could take it all back. But here's the truth. Regret is a reaction to consequences, not a sign of character. If she had truly cared, she wouldn't have needed a second chance to prove it. She wouldn't have needed a third. So I focused on myself. I got back into shape. I picked up old hobbies. I started traveling again, solo at first, then with friends I hadn't seen in years. I redecorated the house, repainted the walls, changed the locks, not just literally, but emotionally. One day, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked smaller somehow, quieter. She smiled weakly and said, "You look good." I nodded. "Thanks." There was a pause, a long one. Then she said, "Do you ever think about what we had?" I looked her in the eyes and said, "I do. And I'm grateful." That surprised her. "I'm grateful," I continued, "because it taught me what I deserve and what I'll never tolerate again." She nodded, blinked back something, and left. That was the last time I saw her. I don't hate her. I don't wish her pain. I don't need closure. I have peace. She wanted me back. But I never looked back. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do isn't staying. It's walking away and never returning to what broke you.